Hello and welcome to Oweleketv News. I am Confidence Oko. Thanks for joining us. Now the news headlines. Nigeria loses $200 billion due to terrorism. BVAS will shatter the aspirations of dishonest politicians. Atiku Abubakar. Barrister Manta speaks on reasons why Tinubu may not become president. And in sports, WAFCON player says participating in WAFCON is a significant occasion for her family. Welcome back. Now the news in details. The shortage of booklets has been attributed to the Central Bank of Nigeria's foreign exchange strategy by the Nigerian Immigration Service and Iris Smart Technologies Limited, a company hired by the federal government to produce Nigerian passports. After failing to win the contract for the creation of the passports, the company claimed that Nigeria's Security Printing and Minting Company (PLC) was undermining its efforts. The claim was made in Abuja by Yinka Fisher, the managing director of Iris Smart Technologies Limited, who was testifying before the House of Representatives ad hoc committee to investigate the proposed domestication and processing of Nigerian international passports. At its inquiry session, the committee also questioned Idris Jere, the Comptroller General of the Nigerian Immigration Service. Fisher said the nation's passport administration was spoiled before the federal government hired them. He said, "Today we have a system where we have a central processing center with a strong inventory control mechanism. Last year we delivered a record number of booklets to NIS, which was about 1.9 million. This year, for the first 4 months, we have delivered nearly 800,000 booklets. We are on course for another record supply this year." The Nigeria Immigration Service gave the Nigeria Security Printing and Minting PLC the opportunity to print the first set of booklets. When they were delivered, it was substandard. The government discarded them and decided to have an international tender for the production and embedding of chips. Idris Jere, in his words, said, "We generate forex from the sale of passports, but we do not have access to buy the same booklets, and that is a challenge for NIS." The factors responsible for the scarcity of passports include the inability to set up passport-producing factories in Nigeria, as its production is done abroad. The major 7 components used for producing passports are sold in the international market, and the assemblage and production are done in Malaysia. This makes the production process solely dependent on forex, and the scarcity of forex due to the fall in Nigeria value is of major concern. The International Monetary Fund cautions Nigeria that while the world economy continues to encounter new shocks and contractions, Nigeria should prepare for a major drop in foreign loans. This is according to Wenji Chen, the Deputy Divisional Chief, during a keynote speech at the International Monetary Fund Regional Economic Outlook on Tuesday in Lagos. Chen claims that the economies of sub-Saharan African countries like Nigeria have continued to be strained by high borrowing costs, high interest rates, and the rising value of the dollar. Chen said in terms of the funding squeeze, the 3 main manifestations that many countries are facing are the rise in borrowing costs. You can see that virtually all the frontier markets have been shut out of the Eurobond markets since the spring of 2022. What that means is that they cannot raise financing on these international markets. Eurobond markets has been a large component of financing for these countries. Inflation is still a major concern for many African economies. Many countries are still going through recovery after the pandemic. She stated that the IMF's policy guidance to Nigeria is based on 4 main policy priorities: fiscal policy, monetary policy, exchange rate policy, and structural reforms. These are meant to address the numerous difficulties the Nigerian economy is currently facing. According to her, improving debt management, mobilizing domestic revenue, and minimizing off-budget obligations should be the new priorities in managing the current cash crunch. Ari Asen, the IMF representative for Nigeria, also made a statement stating that given the liquidity crunch, Nigeria must rely on internally generated cash. But he added that the international lender is still confident in its earlier prediction that Nigeria's economy would expand by 3.2% this year. Oweleketv had an exclusive interview with Barrister Manta, a private legal practitioner, where he talked about reasons why Tinubu may not become president.
One of the things that disqualifies a candidate for president is if you have acquired the nationality of another country or pledge allegiance. It's not just acquiring the nationality. If you have pledged allegiance to another country, it's also a constitutionally disqualifying factor. So if they are able to prove that he has or he acquired the nationality of another country, that is an outright disqualification.
To watch the full interview, subscribe and follow us on our YouTube channel and you will get the full interview there. Moving on now, we're going to be going on a short break. Please stay with us. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Atiku Abubakar, the People's Democratic Party's presidential candidate, asserts that the implementation of the bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS, will shatter the aspirations of dishonest politicians. He asserts that the BVAS has cemented itself as a legitimate tool for the certification and dissemination of election results in Nigeria. Atiku announced this in jubilation after the Supreme Court's confirmation of Osun State Governor Adeleke's victory. Speaking in a statement issued by his media office, he congratulated the people of Osun State, saying the introduction of technology in conduct of elections in Nigeria is progress that cannot be reversed. In his words, we are all witnesses to the copious references to the BVAS technology in coming up with this judgment. The law governing our elections has truly brought power to the people, and those power-mongering politicians who believe that they can freely subvert the inherent power of democracy now have their hopes dashed. He also noted that we must not put the laws into our hands but remain watchful because, as the adage goes, eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. He also asked Nigerians to take a strong interest in the expansion and development of democracy in the nation. Ahmed Aldi, the Commandant General of Nigeria's Security and Civil Defense Corps, has publicly said that despite having an infrastructure deficit of more than $3 trillion, Nigeria has lost an estimated $200 billion due to threats on key assets since 1999. The economic losses brought on by the threat to critical national assets and infrastructure, in his words, are unquantifiable in monetary terms. Despite terrorism, insurgency, banditry, militancy, vandalism, the End SARS protest, the COVID-19 epidemic and other factors, some estimates place the cost at above $200 billion since 1999. According to him, threats to CNAI cause us to move one step forward and two steps back while we work to close this gap. Major General Babagana Munguno, the National Security Advisor, also raised alarm about the frequency of attacks on vital national assets around the nation. He said this at the validation exercise for the Critical National Assets and Infrastructure National Protection Policy and Strategy in Abuja. Munguno, represented by the Principal General Staff Officer, Major General Sadiq Ndalolo, said while the government had put in place both kinetic and non-kinetic safeguards to assure the safety of the assets, additional steps will still be required to handle changing security threats to the nation's infrastructure. Many cities in Osun State erupted in celebration following the Supreme Court's decision on Tuesday proclaiming Governor Adeleke as the winner of the governorship election in Osun State. President Muhammadu Buhari and some other people have also congratulated Adeleke on his victory. Speaking to the journalists, Governor Adeleke expressed gratitude to the court for upholding the will of the people and gave God the glory for his triumph. He also stated that the country's democracy would be strengthened and further solidified by the court's ruling. After the Supreme Court affirmed the victory of Ademola Adeleke as the governor of Osun in the July 2022 elections, President Muhammadu Buhari also urged for inclusiveness and unity in the state. According to the president, the Adeleke administration needs all the support it can get. He pleaded with all state residents and citizens to make sure that programs, policies, plans, and aspirations fashioned to make individuals and businesses flourish succeed. And now over to international news. George Santos, a Republican U.S. representative who has acknowledged to fabricating his CV but has resisted calls to resign, has been charged with a crime. Santos is scheduled to show up in federal court in the Eastern District of New York, where charges have been filed behind closed doors. A representative of the Eastern District of New York U.S. Attorney's Office declined to comment. Santos said he was not aware of the accusations in a conversation with the Associated Press. "This is news to me," he said. A request for response from Santos' office was not immediately answered, and his lawyer could not be reached right away. Withholding judgment on Santos, Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy stated, "In America, you are innocent until proven guilty." According to reports, it's unclear exactly what Santos was accused of. However, charges of misleading statements in Santos' campaign files have been investigated by federal authorities. Up next is sports news, but first, we'll be going on a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. In sports, Ashley Plumter, a defender for Super Falcons and Leicester City Women, said competing at the most recent Women's Africa Cup of Nations was a significant occasion for her family. Plumter, a former England youth international, was granted Nigerian citizenship through her paternal grandparent. Although the 25-year-old made a total of 30 appearances at the junior level and scored 10 goals for England, she has showed interest in playing for Nigeria at the senior level in 2021. Then in February 2022, she earned her senior Nigeria debut, starting in a 2-0 victory against Ivory Coast during the AWCON qualifying matches for 2022. She was also a member of the team that traveled to Morocco in 2022. Plumter expressed her excitement on the occasion of participating in the AWCON by saying, "Yeah, it was my first major event as a senior Nigerian player, and it was a significant deal for me and my family. I had my sights set on it when I initially arrived in Nigeria." And just before we go, we bring you entertainment tidbits. Ada Agwu-Eme, beauty queen who was named the most beautiful girl in Nigeria last year, has reaffirmed her dedication to strengthening girls in society via education. She said this while conversing with newsmen. The 25-year-old Abia State native beat off 36 other competitors from across the nation to win the crown. She claimed that as a result of her love for education, she had given scholarships to at least 100 children in her locality. And that's it on Oweleketv News today, but before we go, here is a recap of the headlines. Nigeria loses $200 billion due to terrorism. BVAS will shatter the aspirations of dishonest politicians, Atiku Abubakar. Barrister Manta speaks on reasons why Tinubu may not become president. And in sports, WAFCON player says participating in WAFCON is a significant occasion for her family. Please subscribe and follow our YouTube channel if you haven't. You can also follow our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter handles at Oweleketv, or go to our website on oweleketv.com to catch up on all our news stories. Till I come your way next time with more interesting news, I am Confidence Oko. Stay safe and thanks for watching.